Going back to 2019, the world of F1 was buzzing with excitement about the future. That year felt like a generational shift because some of the most talented young drivers at the time had established themselves at the front of Formula 1. The two drivers who undoubtedly stood out over the rest were Max Verstappen at Red Bull, who was in his 5th season, and Charles Leclerc at Ferrari, who was in his 2nd. In 2019, with the departure of Ricciardo, Max Verstappen became the outright leader of Red Bull, and over at Ferrari, in only his 1st season at the team, Leclerc beat 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel and announced himself as the future of Ferrari. Watching Max and Charles, who let's not forget were the same age fighting for wins in front-running cars, it honestly gave me the feeling of when Lewis Hamilton stops winning, the next decade of Formula 1 is absolutely sorted. Because with these two, I cannot wait to watch them battle it out for championships for the next 10 years. At the end of 2019, although Max was a lot more experienced and developed as a driver, their career stats were already pretty similar. And although it's difficult and maybe even impossible to imagine this now, at the time we genuinely did not know which of them was going to be more successful and which of them was going to become accepted as the universally better driver at the end of their careers. Fast forward 6 years, and whilst it's incredible to think about how much Max has achieved in that time, winning 4 drivers' titles, I think in a way there is almost an even bigger emotion of sadness and also regret looking back that someone who at the time was considered just as talented as Max has still not had an opportunity to even fight for 1 title in that same time span. If you look at Leclerc's and Ferrari's trajectory so far, Leclerc was able to justify and sacrifice 2020 and 2021, which is 2 years of his career, because he understood that after Ferrari's illegal engine controversy at the end of 2019, the team was clearly going through a rebuild and that their entire focus was on becoming a consistent title contender again during the whole of the new ground effect era. This is precisely why this era has been so frustrating for Leclerc, to the point where now it could potentially drive him out of the team. No one expected for Ferrari to realistically challenge for the title every single season, but they have missed the mark by such a long way and for such a long time that it's embarrassing. Taking a look at it objectively, Ferrari over the past 4 years has had a title-challenging car in terms of raw speed for the first half of 2022 and then for the second half of 2024. That is it. In 2022, they started the season with a very fast car, but compared to Red Bull, it was hideously unreliable for both of the drivers, and Ferrari as a team were nowhere near good enough on the operational side in terms of strategy, pit stops, and communication. This put a level of pressure on Leclerc that Max at Red Bull just didn't have to deal with. Leclerc as a result went on to make too many mistakes, which he himself took accountability for. But again, at the time, the stark contrast in environments made it feel that whilst Max was empowered by Red Bull and won because of his team, on the other hand Leclerc was able to sometimes win races in spite of his team. What is more worrying, however, is that if we then skip forward to the end of 2024, by then Ferrari were under a completely new regime. Binotto was out, Vasseur was in, and generally speaking, the shambolic Ferrari of 2022 was no more, with better pit stops and also better race execution. After the summer break, during a time when McLaren, Red Bull, and even Ferrari were all winning races, in isolation Ferrari looked genuinely competitive, pushing McLaren all the way for the constructors' title and in the end missing out by just 14 points. The problem there, however, was where was this car at the beginning of 2024 when it mattered most and when it could have given Leclerc the chance to fight for the title against Max and Lando? That right there is the sad reality of Leclerc's last 4 years at Ferrari. 2 different half seasons of respectability, and then everything else in between has just either been a disaster or disappointment. In 2022, they failed to develop their car after the summer break. In 2023, they gave their drivers a car that was fast over a lap but had severe tyre wear in the races. And then for 2024, although they managed to solve their tyre wear problems, the car didn't have enough raw pace at the start of the season to match the Red Bull and McLaren. Despite all of those lessons, we then get to 2025, which has been a total and utter failure. This year, despite the fact that the competition has actually got relatively weaker compared to previous seasons because we've had two different drivers struggle in the Red Bull and then also a very young Kimi Antonelli develop in the Mercedes, Ferrari has still failed to capitalize and has had comfortably the fourth best car on the grid that has barely even been able to challenge for podiums. Due to issues with its suspension platform, they have suffered multiple disqualifications, which included ruining Leclerc's race in Hungary to make sure that the car was going to be legal. Their race execution, which is something that Lewis has talked about a lot, is the worst it's been for years. And outside of the bad reliability and the crazy radio messages, it almost feels like we're back to the shambolic Ferrari that we saw in 2022. What is even more depressing is that when you stand back, you realize that in 4 years, Ferrari has stagnated and got absolutely nowhere. There is no evidence to suggest that, relative to the progress that all of the other teams are making, that they are any better off in 2025 than they were in 2022. They still don't understand the ground effect cars well enough to create a title challenging package. They are unable to string together a whole season of development where they have a race-winning car from start to finish. And the harsh reality for Leclerc is that because of how badly they have been in 2025 with all of their knowledge from the previous seasons, it means that the last 4 years of his career, which have been his prime years where he should have been fighting for titles, have essentially been a waste. Ferrari has consistently failed to deliver Leclerc a car that is even close to being a title contender. Although he will never have the stats to prove it, in my mind Leclerc is already one of the greatest drivers to ever drive for the Scuderia. If you look at the post-Schumacher era at some of the other great drivers to drive at Ferrari, all of them at some point eventually got to drive at least one car that was capable of fighting for the title. Kimi Raikkonen, Ferrari's last champion across his 2 spells at the team, had 2007 and 2008, and then 2017 and 2018. Alonso had 2010 and then 2012, and even Vettel had 2017 and 2018. Regardless of how bad Ferrari have been, they do have a history of at least eventually giving their drivers a chance. However, with Leclerc, 7 years in, there is no way that you can say that any of his cars have been good enough relative to the competition that season to genuinely allow him to fight for the title. Or with this constant cycle of disappointment optimism, at some point enough is enough. It's no surprise that in recent weeks there have been rumours of Leclerc's management potentially assessing his options going forward. However, to no one's surprise, during a time of massive turmoil, Leclerc has decided to dampen those rumours and also reaffirm his commitment to Ferrari. What I can say is what I've always said, and that's very clear. I've always loved Ferrari so much, and my only obsession at the moment is to win in red, whether it's now or in the future. And I want to bring Ferrari to the top. And I would like to add, there are lots of speculations around me, but just in general around the team for whatever reason. I feel like there are too many people speaking things not coming from actual facts, and it's just a little bit annoying. And now it doesn't surprise me one bit that Charles has chosen to rebuke those rumours, because that's what drivers do. And let's not forget that at the end of 2023, Lewis was denying rumours about his management potentially looking at his future and talking to other teams when there was apparent talks with Red Bull, and then a couple of months later, it was announced that he had signed with Ferrari. Or what drivers say, especially with regards to rumours about their future, is not always going to be the truth. And 99 times out of 100, of course they're going to deny it because admitting it would only cause division and doubt within their team. I think it's fair to say that Leclerc's love, passion and commitment to Ferrari can never be questioned. But he is now in a situation where, in 2019 he was part of the future generation of drivers who were about to go on to fight for titles, and now in 2025, he is watching Oscar Piastri, who I would argue is a generation after him, probably about to go on and become champion in only his 3rd season. I do not care who you are or how much passion you have for Ferrari. As a competitor, that has got to hurt. What makes it difficult, however, is that Leclerc's mission to win a title for Ferrari goes a lot deeper than just his self-ambitions. It goes all the way back to his godfather Jules Bianchi, who passed away before he ever got the chance to race for Ferrari, and since then he has carried that burden and that pressure to complete an unfulfilled destiny by winning it for himself, winning it for Ferrari, winning it for the Tifosi, and winning it for Jules as well. There is only so much that a man can take, however, and with Leclerc, I really wish that we could get inside his head to know exactly how he feels. By now he's already driven the 2026 car in the simulator, and on some level, he already knows, I'm sure having talked to some of the other drivers privately, where Ferrari is with regards to its progress on the aero and the engine side as well. If Ferrari don't start the season strong and don't even have a platform that they can at least develop into a title contender, I just do not see how Leclerc can honestly continue to let his career be wasted by Ferrari until eventually he gets overtaken by a younger driver. At some point, he is going to have to ask himself if being a Ferrari driver for life is genuinely worth it if it also means that he might become the biggest underachiever and the biggest wasted talent in Formula 1 history. Well, there you have it. If you did enjoy this video and want to support the channel, then don't forget to subscribe, that would be massively appreciated, and I'll see you in the next one.